Hello, artists. Today we are going to be doing some optical illusion art, and we are going to be tracing our hands to make some optical illusion hands. So what I did first, you can see this is a really bold outline of my hand. I actually used a metallic Sharpie on top of my pencil because I was doing this as a demonstration for students while we were in person yesterday. So I wanted to make sure they can see it really well, and now you guys can see it a little bit better on the camera. So you would just trace out your hand with pencil, and then you wouldn't need to outline it unless you like the way this looks and you want yours to be outlined, but it's not necessary to do that. So let's talk about this a little bit. So you can see I've chosen some different colors. I have blue, red, and green. I didn't really go in a very specific pattern. I kept kind of going a little bit back and forth. You can choose to do your own pattern. You can use all one color. You can use two different colors. You can do a full rainbow of colors if you want. That all is really up to you. I used marker on here. You can also use colored pencil. You can probably also use crayon would work well for this as well, but I think marker and colored pencil are going to be your best options if you have those available to you. So you can pick out anywhere from 1 to however many colors you want to use of your markers or your colored pencils, or you can use both. You can go back and forth. But your very first step is just going to be to trace out your hand. When you trace your hand, I didn't separate my fingers a whole lot, but you'd want to separate your fingers a little bit more just so that when you get your pencil down in these parts of your fingers, it's a little bit easier than if your fingers were like this. It's harder to get your pencil down. So I've got my fingers spread apart, and I'm going to try to include some of my wrist too. You can see I have my watch on. You might want to take off a bracelet or a watch if you have that on. Might make it a little bit easier. So I'm just positioning my hand how I want it, and then I'm going to trace lightly with my pencil, angling in towards my hand. So you can see how my pencil is angled in a little bit. I'm trying to trace as closely to my hand as I can. All right, so this is really hard to see, but that is my hand. I'm going to go ahead and outline it with a Sharpie so that you guys can see it a little bit better. All right, so I just outlined it in Sharpie so you can see it a little bit better. So you'll start out with this. Like I said, you don't need to outline it. I just did that so it's easier to see on the camera, but you can work with that, just that pencil outline. Okay, so I'm going to pick out some colors. I think I'm going to use maybe blue, red, and purple. So similar to what I did with my first one that you saw. So to start this, I'm going to start at the bottom where my wrist was. And I'm going to draw a line straight across. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight, but if you want to use a ruler or something, that's totally fine. Just don't draw that straight line through your hand. So go as if you're going underneath the hand. So I'm going to draw that line just straight across. You can see mine's not perfectly straight. That's okay. Now for this part, we're going to try to make it look, since it's going to be an optical illusion, look a little bit like our hand is underneath some fabric or something, and you can actually see the fabric laying on top of our hand. So we're going to make a line that curves up and then curves back down like this to meet on that line. So now I'm going to use a different color, but like I said, you can use the same color if you want. So I'm going to go with purple. And I'm going to draw another straight line, skipping over my hands. And then going back, making that curve again. So this is really repetitive. You're going to repeat this all the way up. But I'm going to go ahead and finish up to about this part once we get sort of into where the fingers are, and I'll show you because it gets a little bit different. So I want to make sure that you know how to do that. So I'm going to finish up to about where I get to the fingers at the top of the hand, and then I'll come back. Okay, so you can see I've finished up to here. Now I've drawn my straight line in purple across, but skipping my hand, and you can see I had to fill in a little gap between the finger right there. So this part, you're going to not make one big curve like you have been down here, but you can kind of see I had to do this a little bit already with the red line. You're going to curve on each finger up and then back down to meet over there. So you're curving each finger as if it was your whole hand. So then here, since there's no breaks in fingers, I'm going to go all the way from this line to this line. So wherever your last part of that line ends, you're going to curve it to wherever the next one begins. Okay, so let's do this again. I think to follow my pattern, I'd go blue next. So let's put that down. So I'm going to draw my straight line again, skipping over where my hand is. So I've got to fill in the gaps. So now I'm going to do a bump from here to here, and then a bump from here over here. But here, see, we've got a little bit of a tricky situation because we don't have that line here. So let's just add a little line. So then we'll go a big bump all the way across. Okay. So now go back to purple again. Straight line across. So this one's going to be extra bumpy because now I've got all of these fingers that I need to go through all those bumps. Okay, so hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. I'm going to go ahead and finish this off. Once you get up to the top part of your paper, if you have a lot more space up here, like I did on this one I showed you, you can just kind of turn that into straight lines up at the top. Okay, so now I've completely finished this. So another option, you can leave it just like this, but if you want to fill in the lines, you can absolutely do that. I'll show you an example. So see, this first one I didn't fill in the lines, so it looks similar to this one. But on this side, I did a different example. And you can see I filled in the lines here just in the background. So I didn't fill in the ones for the hands. However, you absolutely can fill in the hands and the lines. I'll show you what that would look like, at least on just the red parts. So I can still fill that in and you'll still get that illusion of that bump just because you have all of these lines drawn. The stripes are going to bump up. So you can absolutely color in the entire thing and leave no white spaces if you want to. Another option, instead of just coloring in the background, you can also just color in where the hand is. So I'll show you what I mean with that. So here, if I wanted to just color in where the hand is in the different stripes, I can do that, and that's going to make that hand stand out. Coloring in just the background will also make your hand really stand out from the background as well. So I'm coloring this in with colored pencils. You can also use your markers or crayons or whatever it was you used before. It doesn't really matter. I just like that the colored pencils are a little bit lighter than the markers. I like the way that looks. So the rest of it is really up to you. If you want to fill in just the background stripes, you can. If you want to fill in just the hand, you can. If you want to fill the whole thing in with color and leave no white behind, you can absolutely do that too. Or if you want to just leave it like this and make it just all those stripes, that works just as well. So I hope you had tons of fun doing this project and making your own optical illusion with your hand. Please don't forget to take a picture. You can take a picture of yourself with it or just take a picture of your artwork and then go back into that Bitmoji classroom where you clicked on the paint palette to find this and click on the little laptop in the Bitmoji classroom that's sitting right next to the paint palette you clicked on to find the art lessons. And you will fill out a Google form that opens up. It'll have where it wants you to write your name, your teacher's name, what grade level you're in, and then upload the image of your artwork. Have a great day, artists.